All right, everyone, buckle up. Because today we're diving deep into something pretty amazing. AI agents that can write code.
Sound like science fiction, right?
It does,
Yeah.
but it's actually a reality. We're talking about a platform called OpenHands,
Open hands. Okay, I'm intrigued.
and you should be. This platform uses AI agents to do things that, until recently, we thought only human developers could do.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Well, they can modify existing code, they can execute commands, and get this, they can even grab code snippets from Stack Overflow.
Whoa, hold on. So I could basically tell this AI, hey, go find me some code that does X, and it'll just pull it from Stack Overflow.
Pretty much.
That's incredible.
It really is.
But how does that even work? I mean, how can an AI agent understand what code to grab and how to use it?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. These OpenHands agents, they don't just copy and paste. They actually use AI to understand the context of the code. They can adapt it to fit into a specific project, and they can even modify it to match, say, your specific coding style.
So it's like having an AI intern that's also a coding whiz.
Yeah, pretty much. Except this intern works 24/7 and never complains.
Now that's a dream come true.
All right, so we've got these AI agents running around, grabbing code, modifying it. But what are the real-world implications? Where could this actually be used?
Well, think about all the tedious, repetitive coding tasks that eat up so much developer time.
Oh, I know those all too well.
Right. OpenHands can automate those tasks.
Refutes.
It frees up human developers to focus on the more complex, creative, strategic parts of a project.
So it's not about replacing human developers.
Not at all. It's about making them more efficient.
I like that, augmenting their capabilities.
Exactly. And think about rapid prototyping.
Oh yeah, that's crucial these days.
Right. With OpenHands, you could quickly generate code for new features and experiment more easily.
That could seriously speed up development cycles.
Absolutely. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, really.
Okay, so I'm sold on the potential. But let's say I'm leading a development team. How do we actually implement OpenHands?
Well, one of the great things about OpenHands is that it's designed to integrate into existing workflows and tools.
So no need to rip and replace everything we have.
Nope. But there is a bit of training involved.
I figured as much.
You need to teach the OpenHands agents about your specific coding style and project requirements.
Makes sense. So like training a new team member?
Yeah, think of it that way. And the cool thing is, OpenHands can be used by individual developers or by large teams. It scales really well.
Now, I know AI is developing at an insane pace, so I have to ask, what's the future hold for OpenHands and technologies like it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
While we can't predict the future, I think it's safe to say that AI will play a bigger and bigger role in software development.
So these AI agents, they're going to keep getting more sophisticated.
Oh, absolutely. More sophisticated and more autonomous.
And that raises all sorts of questions about the role of human developers.
Right. But before we go down that rabbit hole, let's get back to the nuts and bolts of OpenHands.
Yeah, good idea. You mentioned something earlier about needing a model provider. What exactly does that mean?
Okay, so to run OpenHands, you need a platform like Docker.
Docker, got it.
It basically packages and runs the software in a standardized way. It makes it easy to manage. But OpenHands also needs a brain, you could say.
The brain, okay, I'm listening.
And that's where the model provider comes in.
Okay, so Docker is like the body. The model provider is the brain.
Perfect analogy. One option that works well is Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet. It's a model designed for understanding and generating human-like text.
So it's what allows OpenHands to actually understand what we're asking it to do.
Precisely. And then it figures out how to achieve those goals.
This is incredible. It feels like we're on the verge of something truly revolutionary. But before we all quit our jobs and hand the reins over to the AI, I want to go back to this whole web browsing and code grabbing thing.
Right. Let's break that down a bit more.
So how does OpenHands actually do that? And what are limitations?
Think about it this way. When a human developer faces a new coding challenge, what do they usually do?
Well, I know what I do. Hit up Google, start searching for solutions, tutorials, maybe a code snippet or two.
Exactly. And that's what OpenHands can do, but autonomously.
Okay, walk me through it.
So you give OpenHands a task, and it can search the web for you.
You can browse Stack Overflow, GitHub.
Yep, all the usual haunts. And it doesn't just grab the first thing it sees. It analyzes the code, looks for the best fit, and then, here's the kicker, it adapts it to your specific needs.
So it's like having a superpowered research assistant that can find and tailor code in an instant.
Exactly. It can even modify the code to match your coding style.
This is truly mind-blowing. But I know there have to be limitations. What are some of the potential pitfalls developers might encounter?
Well, one thing to remember is that OpenHands, like any AI system, is still under development.
So it's not perfect?
Not quite. One challenge is making sure the AI agent clearly understands your instructions.
So I can't just say, hey, OpenHands, build me a website, and then go grab a coffee.
Ha, not yet at least. For now, you need to be very precise. Give the AI agent enough context to really understand what you want to achieve.
So there's an art to crafting instructions for these AI agents.
There is. It's something developers will need to learn.
Any tips for our listeners who are eager to start experimenting with OpenHands?
Absolutely. One tip is to think in steps.
Break down the task into smaller chunks.
Exactly. Instead of asking for a whole website, start with something like create a registration form.
Make it digestible for the AI.
Right. And be specific about what you want the end result to look like. The more details you provide, the better.
So it's a collaborative process, even with an AI.
It is. Now, speaking of collaboration, I'm curious, what types of organizations could benefit most from using OpenHands? Is it just for tech companies? Not at all. The beauty of OpenHands is its versatility. Any business that relies on software or web development could benefit.
So startups, large enterprises, anyone who needs to build things in the digital world.
Exactly. Think about finance, healthcare, even retail. They all rely on software.
So it's not just about building apps or websites. It's about streamlining any process that involves code.
Precisely. And that's becoming more and more relevant in almost every industry these days.
It's like we're witnessing the democratization of coding.
That's a great way to put it. OpenHands has the potential to empower anyone, regardless of their technical expertise, to create software solutions.
This is truly groundbreaking stuff. But before we all rush out to download OpenHands, let's pause and recap what we've learned so far.
Okay, good idea. We've established that OpenHands is a platform for AI-powered software development agents. They can do a wide range of things, from modifying code to pulling snippets from the web. And we've talked about how it can be used to automate tasks, speed up development, and empower both individuals and teams.
And we can't forget about those model providers, like Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet, that give OpenHands its smarts.
Right. Those are essential. We also touched on the importance of clear communication with these AI agents and breaking down complex tasks into smaller steps.
This is all incredibly fascinating, but I can't help but think about the bigger picture. How does OpenHands fit into the evolving landscape of AI and software development? What does its emergence tell us about the future of coding?
Those are the big questions, aren't they? OpenHands really is a powerful symbol of how AI is transforming software development. It suggests a future where coding might become more accessible and efficient, a future where humans and machines collaborate more closely than ever before.
It's both exciting and a little bit daunting. What skills will human developers need to thrive in this new era?
That's what we'll be exploring in the next part of our deep dive. We'll delve into the potential impact of OpenHands and similar technologies on the future of coding and the role of human developers. It's going to be a fascinating discussion.
I can't wait. But for now, we'll have to leave our listeners with that cliffhanger.
Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back with more insights into the world of AI-powered software development. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're ready for more insights into the world of OpenHands.
I know I am. We spent part one exploring the nuts and bolts of this amazing technology. Now, I want to see how OpenHands is actually being used out there in the wild. What are some real-world examples where this technology is making a difference?
Okay, let's start with something everyone can relate to: web development.
Perfect.
Imagine you're building an e-commerce site. You've got hundreds, maybe thousands of products.
That's a lot of product pages to create.
Right. But with OpenHands, you could actually generate those pages dynamically.
Dynamically, so like automatically.
Exactly. The AI agent would pull data from your inventory, and, get this, it could even create attractive layouts without you having to code each page by hand.
Wow, that sounds like a huge time saver for e-commerce businesses.
It is, and that's just one example.
Okay, so web development? Check. What about applications beyond websites?
OpenHands can be a game changer for mobile app development, too.
No, I'm all ears.
Think about a fitness tracker app. OpenHands could generate the code to track user activity, analyze the data, and even create personalized workout suggestions.
So it can do more than just build static things. It can actually analyze data and make decisions.
Yep, and it gets even wilder.
Wilder. How?
Let's talk healthcare.
Okay, healthcare is a huge field. How could OpenHands help there?
Well, imagine using OpenHands to analyze medical images, like X-rays or scans.
To help doctors make diagnoses.
Exactly. It could even suggest treatment options based on huge data sets of medical research.
That's incredible. We've got web development, mobile apps, healthcare. It seems like there's no limit to the applications.
You're catching on. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
I love that. So beyond those examples, what other industries could benefit from open hands?
Oh, so many. Manufacturing, for one.
Manufacturing, okay.
Imagine using OpenHands to optimize production lines, predict equipment failures before they happen, even control robots doing repetitive tasks.
So it could really revolutionize how things are run.
Absolutely. And how about agriculture?
Okay, now that's an interesting one.
OpenHands could analyze soil conditions, optimize irrigation systems, even predict crop yields based on weather patterns.
Wow. So we're talking about improving efficiency and sustainability across the board.
That's the idea. And it doesn't stop there. We could go on and on with examples.
All right, so I'm thoroughly convinced that open hands has the potential to transform a lot of industries. But let's talk about the practicalities. How can organizations actually integrate open hands into their existing workflows? What are some things they need to consider?
Well, first and foremost, choosing the right model provider is key.
Right. We talked about Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet earlier.
Exactly. But there are other options out there. It's important to select a model that aligns with your specific needs and the type of tasks you'll be using OpenHands for.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Nope. You need to find the right AI partner for the job.
Makes sense. What else?
Data security is absolutely crucial.
Of course, that's always a top concern.
Right. When you're using OpenHands, you're essentially trusting your code and data to an AI system.
So we need to make sure that data is protected.
Absolutely. Choose a provider with strong security measures in place.
Okay, security check.
Mm.
What about the learning curve for developers? Is OpenHands user-friendly?
That's the good news. OpenHands is designed to be relatively easy to use.
So I don't need to be an AI expert to figure it out.
Not at all. You don't need to learn any new programming languages or anything like that.
That's a relief.
The platform provides intuitive interfaces and tools that allow developers to communicate with the AI agents using natural language.
That sounds pretty user-friendly.
It is. Of course, there's always going to be a learning curve with any new technology.
Yeah, but it sounds like OpenHands is making an effort to be accessible to a wide range of developers.
Absolutely. The goal is to empower developers of all skill levels to use this technology.
That's fantastic. It sounds like OpenHands really could lower the barriers to entry for software development.
That's one of the most exciting aspects, for sure.
More people being able to build the things they envision, even without a ton of technical expertise.
Exactly. But, while OpenHands is incredible, it's still a relatively new platform.
Yeah, there are always growing pains with new tech.
Right. So it's important to be realistic about some of the challenges developers might encounter.
Challenges, like what?
Well, for one, AI is constantly evolving.
That's true. It seems like there are new breakthroughs every week.
Exactly. And the models that power OpenHands are constantly being updated and improved.
Well, that's a good thing, right? It means the technology is getting better.
It is. But it also means that the platform's capabilities are always changing.
So developers need to be adaptable and keep learning as the technology evolves.
That's key. It's also crucial to manage expectations.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, AI is powerful, but it's not magic.
Right. It's a tool.
Exactly. And it's not going to solve every problem perfectly. There will be situations where you still need human intervention.
So it's about finding the right balance between AI and human expertise.
Precisely. And another thing to keep in mind, AI-generated code isn't always flawless.
So there's still a need for debugging and quality control.
Absolutely. Testing and validation are just as important as ever. You want to make sure the code works as intended.
That makes sense. Well, this has been a fantastic exploration of how OpenHands is being used in the real world and some of the practical considerations for implementing it. Before we move on to our final thoughts, I'm curious to hear your overall perspective on the bigger picture.
Okay, shoot.
How do you see OpenHands impacting the future of coding and the role of human developers?
That's a question that keeps me up at night. But seriously, I think OpenHands really signifies a fundamental shift in how we approach software development.
A shift toward what?
A future where coding is more accessible, more efficient, and importantly, more collaborative.
It's an exciting prospect.
Yeah.
But we also need to proceed with caution, right?
Absolutely. As we integrate these powerful AI tools into our workflows, We need to think about the ethical implications.
Data security, bias in algorithms, all those important considerations.
Exactly. We need to have open conversations about the impact of AI on society.
And make sure we're using this technology responsibly.
Right. And in all of this, it's crucial to remember the human element.
At the end of the day, it's about people, isn't it?
It is. AI is a tool, but it's human ingenuity and creativity that will ultimately shape the future.
Well said. Finding that balance between human and machine is key.
Absolutely. So where do we go from here? I guess that's the question for our final segment.
Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back with our final thoughts on the future of AI-powered software development and what it all means for us humans. Welcome back, everyone, for the final part of our deep dive into OpenHands. It's been quite a journey, wouldn't you say?
It has. We've explored the technical side. We've seen some real-world applications. Now I think it's time to zoom out and talk about the bigger picture.
I like that zoom out. So, for our listeners who are maybe just tuning in, or even those who've been with us from the start, why should they care about this OpenHands technology? What's the big deal?
Well, I think one of the most significant things about OpenHands is that it has the potential to, I don't know, democratize access to software development.
Democratize. Okay, I like that word.
It's about empowering people and organizations who might not have had the resources or the expertise to build complex software before.
So like leveling the playing field.
Exactly. Think about it. A small business owner could create a custom website or even a mobile app without needing to hire a whole team of developers.
That's pretty powerful.
It is, and it goes beyond businesses, too. Imagine educators creating interactive learning experiences for their students.
Or researchers automating those tedious data analysis tasks so they can focus on the bigger questions.
Exactly. And let's not forget about global challenges, things like climate change or improving access to healthcare.
OpenHands could be a tool for tackling those too.
Absolutely. We could use it to develop solutions to make a real impact.
It's almost like we're giving humanity an upgrade in a way.
I like that way of thinking about it. It's not just about efficiency or profit. It's about positive change.
But of course, as we've touched on before, with any powerful technology, there are ethical considerations.
For sure. As AI becomes more integrated into our lives, we need to be mindful of potential biases. We need to prioritize data security and privacy.
And have open and honest conversations about the impact of AI on society.
Absolutely. It's not just a conversation for tech companies, it's a conversation for everyone.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways you want our listeners to remember? And what can they do to prepare for this future where AI plays a bigger and bigger role in software development?
That's a good question. I think first and foremost, stay curious, keep learning. The field of AI is constantly evolving, so it's important to stay up to date.
That's great advice. Lifelong learning is key.
It is. And don't be afraid to experiment. There are tools out there like OpenHands that are becoming more accessible all the time.
So dive in, get your hands dirty, play around with it.
Exactly. See how you can use AI to improve your work, to solve problems in your field.
I love that. And lastly,
think critically about the ethical implications. Engage in those conversations about responsible AI development. Advocate for policies that ensure AI benefits everyone.
those are all such important points. It's an exciting time, but also a time for careful consideration. As we stand on the cusp of this AI revolution, what are your final thoughts?
Well, it's definitely a bit daunting, but I'm optimistic. I think if we stay informed, if we're proactive, if we work together, we can harness the power of AI to create a better future.
That's a great note to end on. This has been an incredible deep dive into OpenHands, and I hope our listeners feel inspired to explore the possibilities of this technology. We've covered a lot of ground, but this is really just the beginning of the conversation.
It is. The future of AI is being written right now, and it's a future we all have a role in shaping.
And that wraps up this episode of The Deep Dive. Thank you all for joining us on this exploration. Until next time, keep those minds curious and keep diving deep into the world around you.